Teachers of Reddit, what was your "oh fuck that's impressive but I still have to punish the kid" moment? First 6 months of teaching. Grade 8 English. Kid did a 360 on one leg of his chair. I was impressed but gave him a timeout because it was dangerous. Part of the requirement for timeout was that students identify what got them sent out in the first place. I did a math 360 on my chair but Miss said it wasn't safe. I've still got that timeout sheet on my desk 2.5 years later. Yes, Ethan, it was a math 360. But it was still dangerous. I can't remember the question that was asked of my niece, about 6 at the time, but she stood up in the class and said Sister Bernadette's a bitch, sister as in a nun. The teacher told my sister, normal sister, not a nun, that whilst she couldn't condone the behavior, Sister Bernadette was in fact a total bitch. They had a good laugh about it. My real sister told our sister Mildred that she was a bitch. She also hit her back when she got slapped. My sister was such a badass. Not me, but my mom had to punish a kid who hacked into his teacher's email as an April Fool's pranks and told all of her students to bring a jar of peanut butter to class the next day. Apparently, a bunch of these kids didn't even have peanut butter in their house and had to go and buy it. My mom was very reluctant to punish him, but parents were so furious that she ended up giving him a few detentions. I know that she made sure to tell him how funny she thought the whole thing was. However, if any kids at that school had a peanut allergy, that would have turned out bad. The first time I caught students cheating, it was 2 8th grade girls that had all of the same wrong answers on a vocabulary matching test. I pulled the girls aside after class to ask about it, and after some sheepish grins they both admitted that a third girl, their friend who was an A+ student, had fed them both incorrect answers on purpose. She screwed over her friends because she was pissed they were mooching. For punishment, the first 2 girls got to keep their very poor test grades. The mastermind got your friend's arm out at you as her punishment. Natural consequences. I had a girl tap me on the shoulder and tell me that I had gotten the question wrong. It should be C, photosynthesis, so I flip back, and I look at the test, and I have B, photosynthesis. We had different forms of the test. I said thanks for catching that. She copied all of my other answers and it didn't go well for her. Found the girl on LinkedIn last week. She's an elementary school principal now. I had a classmate jump on the teacher's computer and visit a website that would go full screen and make it seem like it was a Mac now instead of a PC. It was April's Fool's Day and this was his prank. This was in like 2003, so security wasn't the conversation it is today. Anyway, he still got in trouble. The teacher got really angry and kind of yelled at him to sit down in the corner. She called in the vice principal, then the principal, then the on-campus police office, and then when he was good and terrified, all 4 turned to him and said April Fools and let him off the hook. He got his punishment though. He was terrified. Kid in one of my classes visited a prostitute's Facebook profile on the teacher's computer. When confronted he said, "What? She wants to be my friend." Of course, the teacher had to report the whole incident so as to protect himself and he honestly just looked disappointed. Maybe the teacher looked disappointed because he had also thought the prostitute wanted to be his friend. My husband used to work in after-school care. One time he saw 2 kids starting to fight in the sandpit. He headed over to try to calm them down, but while he was on his way, one kid ran at the other, who just calmly flipped the first kid over his head like a textbook martial arts move. My husband said he had to stop himself from shouting, "Wow. Great job." I fought a lot as a kid because I was fat and prideful. I learned how to throw someone over my shoulder early, at about 8 years old, and that became my move until I got in trouble years later because someone tattled. No one ever believes the bigger kid didn't start the fight. Back in the day my friend found an exploit in the school laptops that allowed him administrator access. It was pretty clever. He brought it up to it. Problem was it was very obscure and no one would have been looking for such an exploit unless they wanted to bypass the school's security. So he got suspended. I'm sorry, I've learned my lesson. Next time I discover a potentially dangerous issue somewhere in the school in my pursuit for knowledge I won't tell anyone. This is why it is important for companies to pay bounties for found exploits. Not paying bounties, or, even worse, prosecuting white hat hackers creates a perverse incentive for people not to report exploits or to even sell them to people who might cause harm. Reminded me of an old co-worker who found an exploit to give him an extra $20 per withdrawal. He eventually got caught and was facing charges, but he told them arresting him wouldn't change the fact it is still an issue and that he can show them how to fix it if they drop the charges. I was a new teacher at a school that had a demerit system. Do something bad, get a demerit. At the end of the week, get punished for every demerit over 3. One kid talked like a sailor. I gave lots of warnings to prevent him from being punished to hell and back, but that didn't faze him. So he got demerits. Friday rolled around. Kid, Charlie 24601. How many demerits do I have? Me. 4. Kid, what? What the hell for? Me. Swearing. Kid, that's fucking bullshit. Kids are great at proving your point with things like this. A student in one of the schools I work at had us close to a full service bar and smoke shop set up in a couple of lockers as you can get. The lockers were located in a corner of the hallway that is easily obscured and difficult to monitor. The kid just slapped his own locks on there and nobody noticed. When he was caught, the lockers were found to have several makeshift shelves in them, and contained several bottles of hard liquor, some solo cups, and paper shot glasses in one of them. The other contained a backpack containing some weed and various other drug paraphernalia for sale. The kid had quite the little enterprise going and God knows how much money he made before he got caught. I was shown pictures of what was in the locker, and I had to admit, given what he had to work with, it was quite an impressive setup. Of course, I'm sure he was brought up on a significant number of charges, but still, even the principal had to give him credit for the setup. That kid's going places. Probably jail, but I hope he managed to stay out of it long enough to apply those business skills in a meaningful way. Not a teacher, but teacher adjacent. I was on recess duty with a bunch of 7 to 9-year-olds one day, and this kid ran up to me to point out a couple of other kids fighting. I turned around, and yep, looked like a fight. As I went over there, a couple things stood out. The two fighting were besties, so it was weird that they were fighting. And they were making sound effects. Dudes were playing out some epic Star Wars battle, complete with stick sabers and the blaster noises and everything. Their stunt coordination was on point, y'all. I had to make them put down the sticks and holster their finger guns. By the rules, I should have sent them to the principal to be suspended for the finger guns, but that's ridiculous for consensual play acting, so no, but commended them on how real it all looked. Glad you took a sensible stance on the finger guns. Suspension for that is draconian. My co-worker and I discovered that one of our students was running an underground crime syndicate selling individual icebreaker mints for 50 cents a pop. We agreed not to punish him or inform the administration, but we did confront him privately and told him he needed to stop before it got him in trouble. He had about a half dozen employees and was selling at every grade level by the time we put an end to it. Kid was a C student at best, but he's definitely going places. Breaking Bad theme starts. What has better profit margin, selling meth, or reselling individual mints for a 1000% markup? In 9th grade our school got a vending machine for soft drinks and water. They all were damn expensive, €3 per half liter, and the pledge, don't know if this is the right translation, money you get back when you return it, was €0.50. All students and most of the teachers said it was too expensive and wanted it removed cause younger students spent all their lunch money on one Sprite. The machine had a return slot for the empty bottles. So we ripped one label of one bottle and printed it like 1000 times. Every time someone wanted to drink something we put 6 copies of the little paper in the machine and basically got a drink for free. It went down for about 2 weeks until one of the teachers caught us. We had to do detention. But a couple years after school we met him again and he told us he really liked it cause the soft drinks were way too expensive anyway. Our church used to rent a lecture theater with a vending machine in the foyer. One morning as we were setting up and not paying much attention to the kids, they assembled a long, flexible column of those texture pens that clip together, inserted it through the baffle at the bottom of the machine, and used it to fish bags of Doritos out of the machine. We had a little chat about the 8th commandment, but I don't think we could hide how impressed we were. ESL teacher here. So I teach high school ESL class where most of my students either don't speak any English or they speak very little. I had a student in there who was constantly disruptive and liked to bully the other kids to establish his manliness. One day, the disruptive kid is doing his normal annoying shtick and out of nowhere, my quiet little Latina in the corner of the room, in the clearest pronounced English I've ever heard her speak, said, "You stupid motherfucker." I had to hold in a laugh. I then had a quick convo with her and congratulated her on the clear pronunciation, but also told her she couldn't say that in class. Edit. I fixed my grammar. I shouldn't write posts when I'm half awake. Edit 2. Since people keep asking me, I did deal with the troublemaker after that lesson was over. I pulled him outside and gave him an ultimatum, and when he did it again, he got sent to ICE, in school suspension. I just didn't include that part because it didn't have anything to do with the question. Also, in high school, acknowledging the troublemaker in middle of his troublemaking just fuels the fire more, and sometimes, ignoring the kid at the moment and talking to him later works better. I was a student in class at the time, but we had this kid named Mitchell, and for whatever reason some of the other kids called him Mickle, pronounced like pickle. In music class, a room designed for sounds to travel, a kid passed a note to him that said, "I'll give you a nickel if you tickle my pickle, Mickle," and the music teacher snatched it and read it aloud. I don't think she realized what she read till it was too late, but I could tell she was holding in a giggle. A jiggle.